$15 million aircraft that rarely flies. So you want to own a private jet. Imagine buying a $15 million super midsize aircraft, flying it 300 hours a year, and still spending roughly $3.5 million annually once operating cost and economic depreciation are included. The strange part is that your jet would remain on the ground for more than 96% of the calendar year. At first, the solution appears obvious. Fly it more. Charter it when you are not using it. Turn an idle luxury into a revenue-producing asset. But that is where the economics become dangerous. The more strangers fly your aircraft, the faster maintenance arrives. The more revenue it earns, the less certain it is that the jet will be available when you need it. And the moment ownership finally appears cheaper than charter may be the same moment your schedule, routes, passengers, and aircraft are no longer flexible enough for charter. So why do companies and wealthy families own an entire aircraft instead of purchasing only the hours they use? The answer is not simply comfort, and it is rarely the lowest hourly price. A private jet owner is not buying transportation alone. They are buying the right aircraft, at the right airport, with the right crew, available when the owner decides to leave. The aircraft is the hardware. Guaranteed control is the product. That product can be enormously valuable. It can also become one of the most expensive schedules ever placed on a balance sheet. To understand why, we need to build the owner's real cost, add charter revenue, trigger a maintenance event, shock the resale value, and compare whole ownership with charter and fractional access. Only then can we answer the real question: when does owning the jet make economic sense? And when is ownership simply an expensive way to avoid saying no? Which private jet are you buying? Private jet is not one product. A light jet may carry a small group regionally. A super midsize aircraft adds cabin space and range. A larger cabin jet can cross oceans, but every step upward increases fuel, crew, hangar, and maintenance exposure. A long-range jet is valuable when it avoids a fuel stop across an ocean. The same aircraft can be absurd when two passengers use it for a 40-minute flight. The best private jet is not the largest aircraft the buyer can afford. It is the smallest aircraft that can complete most of the owner's real missions without making the exceptional missions impossible. For this model, we will use a $15 million super midsize jet. It can serve several passengers, fly meaningful regional and transcontinental missions, and still expose the economics clearly. The numbers are illustrative. Actual cost changes with aircraft, age, location, financing, fuel, maintenance, and mission profile, but the structure remains the same. The buyer pays once to acquire the aircraft, then pays continuously to keep it ready, then pays again whenever it flies, and finally discovers what the market thinks it is worth when it is time to sell. The purchase price is the first invoice. The advertised aircraft price is not the total entry cost. Before purchase, the buyer needs title checks, a records review, and a pre-purchase inspection. Corrosion, engine exposure, missing records, or approaching maintenance can turn a discounted jet into the expensive one. After closing come tax, registration, crew recruitment, training, insurance, upgrades, and maintenance program enrollment. The cheapest day in aircraft ownership can be the day the money's wired. The expensive part begins when the owner must keep a complex machine legal, crewed, maintained, insured, and ready before the next trip is even known. Now the $15 million aircraft is sitting in a hangar. Even if it flies nowhere, the annual bill has already begun. Two qualified pilots may cost roughly $650,000 after salaries, benefits, travel, recurrent training, and coverage. Hangar and parking cost $150,000. Insurance costs $100,000. Management, subscriptions, charts, scheduling, accounting, and administration consume $260,000. Calendar inspections, maintenance support, cabin care, and fixed technical reserves add $340,000. The jet has not flown one passenger. Fixed cash cost has reached approximately $1.5 million. Canceling Tuesday's trip does not eliminate the crew, hangar, or calendar maintenance bill. That is why low utilization is so destructive. The $4,000 hour. Now start the engines. Assume fuel costs approximately $1,700 per flight hour. Engine, auxiliary power unit, parts, and maintenance reserves add $1,600. Landing fees, navigation, handling, catering, cleaning, and trip support average another $900. Variable cost reaches roughly $4,200 per flight hour. At 300 owner hours per year, that produces $1,260,000 of variable expense. Add the $1.5 million fixed bill. Annual cash operating cost becomes approximately $2,760,000. That equals $9,200 for each owner flight hour. But this number still makes ownership look better than it is. Cash cost tells you what left the bank account this year. Economic cost also asks what happened to the $15 million tied up in the aircraft. And what happened to the aircraft's resale value while you used it? Assume economic depreciation of 5% or $750,000 for the year. That rate will not occur smoothly. Some aircraft hold value well, others fall sharply when the market turns, a model becomes unpopular, or expensive maintenance approaches. But include the estimate. Total economic cost becomes $3,510,000. At 300 hours, the true modeled cost is $11,700 per owner hour. This still excludes the opportunity cost of tying up $15 million and any unexpected major repair. The jet may feel free once purchased. The balance sheet knows otherwise. The empty leg problem. The owner normally measures the trip carrying passengers. The aircraft measures every flight. Suppose the owner flies from New York to Miami, remains there for 10 days, and then returns. Keeping the aircraft and crew away may be impractical. The jet could return empty, then reposition empty again to collect the owner. A 5-hour passenger itinerary can create 10 aircraft hours. The owner's effective cost has doubled before one extra passenger enters the cabin. Commercial airlines design networks to place passengers into aircraft. A private owner designs the aircraft around one passenger schedule. That creates the convenience, but it also creates empty metal moving across the country. If 8 executives use a flight productively, an $11,000 aircraft hour may be rational. If one passenger creates 2 empty legs, it becomes a very expensive calendar preference. The owner must measure cost per completed mission. Warren Buffett's ownership lesson. In Berkshire Hathaway's 1998 shareholder letter, Warren Buffett described the economics that turned aircraft ownership into a network business. He explained that executive jet aviation, now NetJets, sold fractional shares and operated the fleet for its owners. Buffett's family had already flown roughly 900 hours across 300 trips through the program. Berkshire then bought executive jet aviation for $725 million. Buffett wrote that whole ownership generally needed roughly 350 to 400 annual hours to make economic sense. But the more important lesson was scale. A large fleet can send a nearby aircraft, match jet size to mission, and spread peak demand. One owner cannot. Fractional ownership does not make the aircraft cheap. It makes the fixed cost divisible, the empty legs shareable, and the backup aircraft available. The customer gives up control of one specific tail number and receives access to a fleet. NBAA guidance has described charter as most suitable around 50 hours or less, with fractional ownership becoming more attractive around 50 to 100 hours. Those figures are not directly comparable with whole ownership, but they reveal the choice. The occasional flyer purchases access without purchasing the idle year. Can charter pay for the jet? Now I'll turn the aircraft into inventory. The owner places it with a qualified charter operator. In the United States, private operations generally fall under Part 91, while compensated charter requires an authorized Part 135 operator with additional operational, crew, maintenance, and safety requirements. The owner cannot simply advertise seats and collect money. Operational control matters. NBAA notes that in one common management structure, the aircraft owner may receive approximately 85% of the base charter rate, while the certificate holder keeps 15%. The owner still pays the aircraft's fuel and maintenance expenses. Now assume 250 billable charter hours at $10,000 per hour. Gross charter sales reach $2.5 million. The owner's 85% share is $2,125,000, but those trips also require 80 hours of empty repositioning. The aircraft therefore flies 330 additional hours. At $4,200 per aircraft hour, variable expense reaches approximately $1,386,000. Add $100,000 for extra cleaning, administration, compliance, and wear. The charter program contributes about $639,000 toward fixed ownership cost. $2.5 million of charter sales has not created $2.5 million of owner profit. After the operator's share, empty legs, fuel, maintenance, and added wear, it has offset only part of the annual bill. Cash ownership cost falls from $2,760,000 to roughly $2,121,000. Useful, but not free. The aircraft now flies about 630 total hours instead of 300. Inspections arrive sooner. The cabin ages faster. The engines accumulate more time, and the aircraft may be returning from a charter when the owner suddenly wants to leave. The owner can block dates, but every protected date removes charter inventory. The more perfect the jet remains for the owner, the less revenue it can safely earn. The maintenance calendar. Aircraft maintenance does not arrive as one smooth hourly expense. Some work is triggered by flight hours, some by takeoff and landing cycles, some by calendar dates, and some by a component failure that ignores the budget. A jet used on many short charter sectors can accumulate cycles faster than one flying long owner missions. An aircraft that barely flies still needs calendar inspections, software, training, corrosion control, and time-limited components. Now imagine an inspection reveals work costing $800,000 and grounds the jet for 6 weeks. The owner pays the repair, substitute charter, and the cost of lost charter availability. Maintenance creates a triple cost: the repair itself, the revenue the aircraft cannot earn, and the replacement travel the owner must purchase while the asset is unavailable. Maintenance programs can smooth engine and component expense and improve resale confidence. But exclusions, escalation, and enrollment rules mean the owner must understand coverage before the engine is opened. The resale shock. Fuel prices are visible. Depreciation is quiet. A 25% rise in fuel price would add roughly $128,000 to the 300-hour owner model. Painful, but manageable. A 15% decline in the value of the $15 million aircraft destroys $2,250,000. That single paper loss is almost 18 times larger. Values move with interest rates, new models, maintenance status, records, and the number of similar aircraft for sale. Two identical jets can price differently because one has fresh engines while the other approaches heavy maintenance. The owner can save on catering and negotiate cheaper fuel for years, then lose every saving when the market decides the model is less desirable, or when the next buyer prices an approaching inspection into the offer. The exit must be planned at acquisition: future mission fit, major inspections, parts availability, and likely buyers. The wrong jet is expensive to operate and expensive to escape. The tax deduction mileage. Tax treatment can improve the economics of legitimate business aircraft use. In the United States, IRS guidance says qualifying business aircraft may be eligible for accelerated depreciation when required business use tests are met. Current rules also allow 100% bonus depreciation for certain qualifying property acquired and placed in service after January 19, 2025. But a deduction is not a government-funded jet. It reduces taxable income. It does not refund the purchase price dollar for dollar. It can also bring passenger-by-passenger records, personal use treatment, entertainment limits, and possible depreciation recapture. State tax can create a separate problem. Tax treatment can change when the owner recognizes the cost. It does not change the fuel burned, the maintenance performed, or the market value lost. Buying an aircraft mainly for the deduction means spending $1 to avoid paying only part of $1 in tax. The structure must follow operations, not a tax story the passengers, routes, and records cannot support. The 150-hour shock. Return to the model. The owner expected 300 annual hours. Then travel falls after a strategy change, a division sale, and better airline service. Owner flying falls to 150 hours. Variable cost falls from $1,260,000 to $630,000, but fixed cash cost remains about $1.5 million. Annual cash cost becomes $2,130,000. That is $14,200 per owner hour. Include the same $750,000 depreciation estimate, and economic cost becomes $19,200 per hour. Cutting flight activity in half has not cut ownership cost in half. It has increased the economic cost of every used hour by more than 60% because the owner is spreading the idle year across fewer missions. This is the central fixed cost trap. High utilization can make whole ownership competitive. Low utilization turns the aircraft into a subscription whose largest invoice is paid even when no one travels. But hours alone do not decide the verdict. 300 predictable major city trips may suit fractional access. 150 urgent trips to small airports with changing departure times may justify control. The value of availability is not measured by flight hours alone. It is measured by what happens when the aircraft is unavailable. What Wheels Up revealed about scale. Fleet economics become clearer when viewed at company scale. Wheels Up reported $792 million of revenue in 2024 and a net loss of roughly $340 million. The company said higher aircraft utility improved contribution margin. It retired 50 legacy jets and King Air aircraft while moving toward a standardized Phenom and Challenger fleet. By the fourth quarter of 2025, performance had improved substantially. Wheels Up reported $184 million of quarterly revenue, a $29 million net loss, and positive adjusted EBITDA. This is not directly comparable with one aircraft. If a national operator with customers, dispatch software, purchasing power, and hundreds of daily decisions can struggle with utilization and fleet complexity, one owner should be very careful before assuming charter revenue will automatically turn a jet into a profitable business. Standardization lowers training, parts, and maintenance complexity. Utility spreads fixed cost. Fleet density reduces empty repositioning. A single owner has less scale in every category. Where the real value moves, the aircraft itself does not create the highest value. Control does. An owner can choose the cabin configuration, security standards, connectivity, crew, maintenance policy, and availability rules. Sensitive equipment can remain on board. Executives can work privately, visit multiple cities, use smaller airports, and depart when a meeting ends. Commercial schedules cannot price these benefits correctly because their value belongs to the passenger's business, not the airline. The jet creates a return only when time saved, deals protected, risks reduced, or opportunities captured are worth more than the ownership premium. Without that connection, convenience is being reported as productivity. The strongest owners track door-to-door time saved, passenger productivity, trips made possible, empty positioning, availability, and financial results connected to important missions. Not every trip needs a signed contract, but the organization's time and access must justify permanent readiness. The ownership traps. The first trap is buying intercontinental range for one annual trip. then overpaying on every regional flight. The second is dividing cost by passenger hours instead of all aircraft hours, including repositioning. The third is excluding depreciation and capital cost because they are not fuel invoices. The fourth is assuming charter revenue equals profit after operator fees, empty legs, maintenance, and cabin wear. The fifth is forecasting 300 hours and flying 150. Fixed cost remains waiting. The sixth is buying an aircraft approaching major maintenance because the asking price looks attractive. The seventh is underfunding crew coverage. 2 pilots on payroll do not guarantee legal and safe availability every day of the year. The eighth is treating tax depreciation as economic profit. The ninth is choosing the cheapest management company without understanding operational control, safety systems, insurance, or Part 135 authority. The 10th is promising the aircraft to charter customers while expecting instant owner access at peak times. The 11th is ignoring mission change. Today's aircraft may become too small, too large, or too short-ranged after an acquisition or relocation. The final trap is believing that wealthy owners do not need unit economics. Wealth can absorb a bad decision. It cannot transform it into a good investment. The ownership verdict. So what separates a rational private jet owner from someone paying millions for an aircraft that rarely moves? High-value missions, sufficient utilization, disciplined aircraft selection, and a genuine need to control availability. Not simply the ability to afford the purchase price. A strong owner begins with 2 years of actual travel data. They map passengers, routes, baggage, runway needs, departure changes, overnight patterns, empty legs, and commercial alternatives. They select the smallest aircraft that can complete most missions reliably. They complete a serious pre-purchase inspection and price-approaching maintenance into the deal. They separate fixed, variable, capital, tax, and repositioning costs. They know cash cost and economic cost per mission. They reserve for maintenance and plan the resale before purchase. If they charter the aircraft, they use a qualified operator, define owner priority dates, and calculate contribution after every associated aircraft hour. They compare ownership annually with charter, fractional access, jet cards, and a mixed solution. And they measure the business value of time, not only the prestige of arrival. A weak owner sees a $15 million aircraft and imagines $15 million as the total cost. They buy too much range. They underestimate crew and downtime. They count only occupied hours. They assume charter will pay the bills. They claim the tax benefit before understanding the use rules. Then flying falls. Fixed cost remains. Charter trips age the cabin. A major inspection arrives. The owner needs the jet while it is unavailable. The market value drops, and the aircraft that was supposed to save time begins consuming management attention, capital, and cash. The most dangerous private jet is not the one that is obviously unaffordable. It is the one the buyer can afford to purchase, but cannot use enough value correctly or sell at the price assumed in the spreadsheet. The opening contradiction now makes sense. The jet remains on the ground for more than 96% of the year because the owner is not purchasing motion. They are purchasing readiness. Crew makes it ready. Maintenance keeps it legal. The hangar protects it. Capital secures it. Management positions it. And the owner pays for all of those things so that the aircraft can leave at the exact moment it is needed. At low annual usage, charter usually buys the flight without buying the idle time. At moderate usage, fractional ownership can spread fixed cost and provide fleet access. At high and strategically valuable usage, whole ownership can provide control no shared product can fully duplicate. But even then, the aircraft must fit the mission. So are you buying a private jet? Only partly. You are buying a permanent flight department, a maintenance calendar, a crew obligation, an insurance risk, and a depreciating promise that your schedule will take priority over the markets. In the strongest model, valuable missions justify the premium. Utilization spreads fixed cost, Charter carefully offsets part of the bill, and disciplined resale planning protects capital. In the weakest model, the owner buys the jet for status, flies half the expected hours, counts charter sales as profit, and discovers that convenience has fixed costs while resale value does not. The engines create speed, the cabin creates privacy, the airport network creates access, but availability creates the asset. A private jet is not valuable because it can fly whenever you want. It is valuable because someone has paid millions every year to make sure it is ready during the 1 hour when waiting is more expensive than ownership.